Hello, everyone. Here to introduce the introduction to you. I'll work through the PowerPoint slides, emphasizing the ones that are interesting and also the ones that connect most directly to your quiz for this chapter. That is the objective quiz. So we will be covering all these sections of these areas of philosophy: metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, social political, logic, not so much aesthetics. Generally, the course is geared mostly toward the first three: metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics. As you learn from the reading, famously, philosophy is from the Greek. The words roughly translate to the love of wisdom. Hence the title of our book, Archetypes of Wisdom, is central to this introduction. A number of questions. There will be dozens, if not hundreds. This is a good example of a philosophical type question. We will talk about God. We will talk about evil and innocent people suffering, the mind-body connection, etc. Philosophy is asking a lot of questions. As it says here, the questions that we ask don't often have cut and dried answers. So it's often said that philosophy is more about the questions than the answers, and that's given by several quotes in the book, including one by a famous 20th century philosopher named Bertrand Russell. An archetype says an image that all humans use to represent essential qualities of some type. So it epitomizes something. As we're told here, we'll be looking at philosophical archetypes, that is, the most famous representations of philosophical type thinking throughout history. The philosophical archetypes are not necessarily stereotypes, although sometimes they have become that. The word represents more of a positive way, as it says here, essential ways, and that's one of the reasons why they have stood the test of time. So, a couple of examples. We have skeptical philosophers. They generally will say similar things, but they also have their own uniqueness. And we will learn later of utilitarian philosopher, particularly a famous one named John Stuart Mill. Philosophers were, unfortunately, almost always men at the beginning, and hence there is brought up in our text this issue of philosophy just being about dead white males. It was generally, unfortunately, focused in that direction historically. Often women's work went unacknowledged, but lately, near the end of the course, we will be incorporating a lot of women thinkers who came out of recent past. Philosophy searches for truth. We're going to learn about various ways of looking at truth, various angles and methods. Underlying a lot of it is the notion that a lot of people have that philosophy is just a matter of opinion, which comes from the fact that there are often no clear-cut right or wrong answers. People will often say, how do you grade? How do you do, look at things when there are no right answers? Well, there's a lot of material to digest and learn. So the objective quizzes will be working with just this kind of material that we're going over here. And of course, a large part of it is writing and responding in rational, argumentative ways. Relativism is the attitude we're going to learn about in a couple of different areas of the book, that everything is relative and that knowledge is determined by the learner, the observer, rather than objectively true in the world. So we'll be finding out a lot more about the details of that. So wisdom, what is the difference between wisdom and truth, or wisdom and knowledge? As it says here, the wisdom at its core is reasonable and practical, and it is derived and comes from particularly learning from experience. When someone is wise, we usually think that they're wise because they have gone through or they know a lot about from having experienced it or practicing something like gardening or anything practical like being able to fix a sink or a toilet or something like that. We will learn a little bit more about that in this course, and it's always the subtext of what we're doing. So we do seek knowledge as opposed to just opinion. And throughout the course, we will be concerned with the difference between theory and practice. Philosophers can be theoretical, but they're often also talking about practical things. And to make such distinctions as between theory and practice is itself something that philosophers do. So belief and ignorance. If you have a belief, it is, we're calling it a subjective mental acceptance that a claim is true. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is true, of course. Difference between informed belief and mere belief is mere belief is simply that is a little bit more radical on the far end of far from knowledge, because it says here the only evidence you have if you have a mere belief is the conviction itself, which tries to validate itself. If you have a belief, you're probably open, a regular belief as opposed to mere belief. You're open to finding out about whether or not it's true. The book makes a special reference to willed ignorance. This is a partly psychological term. We will find a lot of psychological connections in philosophy. Its definition is fairly straightforward. We hold on to a false belief regardless of the facts. We have willed ignorance. And that can also be defined as we don't really care about looking into whether or not we could be wrong. So willed ignorance is a negative. As it says here, ignorance is not an option. Philosophers are obsessed with knowledge and truth and their existence and the ways to get there. So quickly to go through the last few slides, some things to think about if you want to review. Again, this is all in your text, so I won't go over many of the rest of these in detail, because this so far has covered most of what you'll need to know for the quiz. So let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you on the next one.